Welcome to the For Evansville podcast. You're listening because you care about Evansville. You see what's beautiful about our city, but you also see real challenges, and you want to be part of the solution. But where do you start, and how do you make a lasting impact? That's where For Evansville comes in. Through storytelling, films, podcast episodes, and gatherings, we drive meaningful conversation about our city's needs and opportunities. We connect people, organizations, and the local church together, creating a community where collaboration leads to real change. And we believe that you are uniquely positioned to make a difference. So if you're ready to move from feeling overwhelmed and disconnected to feeling empowered within a collaborative community, you're in the right place. Don't just live in Evansville, be for Evansville.
Hello, welcome to the For Evansville podcast. My name is Adrienne, and today I am here with Jonathan Siebeking, the director of METS bus system, Evansville, and Andrea Hayes, the chief program and impact officer, Welborn Baptist Foundation, and Matt Schreifer, the chief transportation planner of Evansville Metropolitan Planning Organization. So today, we are here a part of a mini series that we are doing with Talent EVV. You know, we believe that you can't really be an agent of change if you don't love something. And to love something, you have to know it well. And so we love to do that with our city. We want to be agents of change in our city, and we want to love it well, but we also want to know it well. And that includes incredible people who are doing incredible work that we may not know about. And so today we are talking about the Live Well section of Talent EVV's annual report. You can learn more about that in the first episode where Tyler and I talk about their whole report. So we're breaking it down each episode. So this is Live Well, and specifically we're looking at a theme of connectivity in our city and why that supports all these benefits, from attracting and retaining residents to supporting economic growth, which you wouldn't think just a city being connected well would produce all of these really cool results. And so we're gonna dive into that. We're also gonna be talking about the specific initiative, why you guys are here, called METS Micro. And so we're gonna dive into that in a little bit. But first, let's start with you, Andrea, of just talking about the importance of community and connectivity. Why do we see all those benefits when a city is more well connected?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first started this work, which was actually back in late 2019 and then early 2020, we were really taking a focus on physical health, right? About making sure that we can get people to where they need to be. In fact, that's kind of how I pulled Matt in. I said, hey, our healthcare providers are saying they can't get people to and from appointments. Yeah. And we know that we have a robust bus system, but there's just some gaps in getting people, to those specific locations. And what can we do about it? We knew we had a challenge to get kind of across the Vanderburgh County to Warwick County line out there in the healthcare corridor off of Epworth. And so we started talking about the physical aspect. And then the pandemic hit, right? And none of us were really going anywhere. And we weren't only not physically connected anymore, but we also weren't socially connected, right? And so there was sort of that toll in terms of kind of the mental and just social aspect of that. And I think that helped us really elevate the issue of we need to get people to where they need to be, regardless of what got us started down here, which was really healthcare appointments. We started learning that people have challenges getting to their jobs, getting to school. There's been it's been difficult across the nation getting school bus drivers. So what does it look like to fill those gaps when needed, both with the fixed routes as well as, some unique on-demand. And we want to get people in our community. We want people to be able to get where they want to go so they can interact, so they can be together, so they can be socially connected. And a socially and physically connected community is going to be more vibrant. You're going to see people out and about. We know public transit connects people to active transportation, so people might take the transit system in order to get to downtown to see this beautiful riverfront, to use their bikes. You can put a bike on the bus system, right? So it's really about creating that active, vibrant community. When people come to visit, they say, wow, you see people out and about. This is happening, and that in turn makes it an attractive place for both businesses to locate and new residents.
Yeah. So as Welborn was exploring this, what made you decide to bring, I mean, it may be kind of obvious to bring in the transportation of Evansville, but how have you guys worked together on that?
Well, Matt and I had worked together before on some other initiatives. The MPO covers such a vast amount of work across the region as it relates to transportation initiatives. So I knew Matt was probably a good first place to start and say, hey, what can we do about this? And we learned about some other initiatives through just kind of reviewing best practices. We heard about a really unique program out in Missouri that was really volunteer-led, and but they were kind of filling those gaps. But it was also for a rural area, and that didn't really quite. It wasn't quite the same. That wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't comparable. And so obviously Matt has a finger on the pulse on all the different types of opportunities from a funding perspective, as well as all the partners. I mean, I hadn't met Jonathan before I started working with Matt, so knew is a good place to start is with the planning organization that understands the plans, which they've created several excellent guiding documents over the last 5 years, but also what can we do about it?
Right. Yeah, it's important to bring in the city experts that have been working in this for a long time, but also it's good to see what other cities are doing, but it is not a one-size-fits-all because I'm sure Evansville is laid out differently. There are different neighborhoods that you have to deal with. Yeah, that's really cool. So
and I think it's important to note, too, that the MPO, they look at transit, but they also look at active transportation, right? So they're putting it all together. That's what they're doing every day.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Would you explain your job more to us so we have a better understanding?
Yes, the MPO is a regional transportation organization. So we work with not only Vanderburgh and County and Evansville, but also Warwick County and Henderson. And our role is really to look at how we can help each of the communities with their transportation needs. The federal transit and federal highway funding come through our office. So we work closely with Jonathan at METS. We work closely with Hart over in Henderson and the Evansville Trails Coalition, and then the city and county engineers of what can we do best to help you improve transportation. And so we're always thinking not only how can we get more people on the roads to locations faster, but how can we also help the people that would prefer using their bike or walking from point A to point B or using the bus system. So we're thinking about all that on the regional level.
Right. So Mets Micro was born. So tell us, Jonathan, tell us about that.
In October 2021, the Welborn Foundation and Toyota Mobility Foundation kind of had a get-together, and they asked different people to put some projects together and talk about some of the areas they had issues in with the community. Mayor Winicky called and asked Todd Robertson, who's over the transportation and services for the city, and I to put on a presentation about some of the challenges METS faces. And it was during the pandemic, and part of the transportation world issues at that time and still going on are having to close down some routes or temporary halt routes because of lower ridership. And also that was kind of the beginning of the Great Retirement. And so nationwide, we're seeing a large vacuum where it comes to having drivers with CDLs. You need a Class B CDL. And then a new hurdle was put in the way that it used to just be to get a CDL. If you had a regular operator's license, you go to license branch, you take a test, then you take a driving test, you get your CDL. You have to go through schooling now, and it takes about 5 weeks, to get it. And there's a cost barrier. It's about $5,500 per student to get your CDL. And so once we were ready to reopen routes, we had the issue of not having enough drivers.
Right.
And so we were working on that issue. One of the things that was brought up was the push for microtransit that's going on nationwide. And microtransit is what METS Micro is. It is a demand response service where they come pick you up and take you from point A to point B where you want to go. Whereas with typical transportation, mass transportation, it's a straight line. It goes from downtown out to the east side or downtown to the west side. And this would kind of get you through that little hurdle to exactly where you want to go and in a more timely fashion, whereas we're an hourly service or half hour to get from downtown to the east side. This will get you there much faster.
Hey, this is Pat. I remember feeling disillusioned about what I perceived to be a lack of collaboration among Christians in Evansville. 150 churches, 150 ministries type of thing. Then I discovered For Evansville, an organization that's devoted to bringing together Christians to address the city's most pressing issues, like kids growing up in poverty. And that's why I joined the For Evansville Collective, to be around more people like me who love Evansville. So be For Evansville and be part of the collective. You can learn more at forevansville.org/collective.
How many people would you say use the just transportation system, not METS Micro, but just the MET?
On our fixed route, our big buses, we have around 3,000 passengers per day.
Okay.
Our paratransit service, which is METS Mobility, we do approximately 120 to 130 passengers per day.
Okay.
With METS Micro, when it started out, actually ran the numbers.
Oh, great.
So
I love numbers.
Yeah. We launched in March 28th, 2023.
Okay.
And for the first 30 days, we had 740 passengers. This past 30 days, we've had 5,600 passengers.
Wow.
So we've seen quite a bit of growth. And the current zone for METS Micro is the east side of Evansville, basically.
Okay.
It goes out to Epworth Road in the medical district, and then the southern line is I-69, and that's also the eastern border. When it first launched, the western border was Highway 41, and then Morgan Avenue is basically the northern border.
So has there been anything surprising since you started that you thought, okay, this is only going to be used for, like you said, medical uses? Have you been seeing it used for other things?
A lot more young people like using the METS Micro system. Younger people don't necessarily want to get on the bus with 40 other people, 30 other people. They like the instant gratification also of using that app and plugging.
Okay, so I was going to ask is how do people, one, know about this and to use it?
Okay, there's an app or there is a phone center. So if you do not have a smartphone and you want to call it in, you just call the dispatch system and they will send the vehicle to you. And it's a $2 flat fee. No matter where you're going, it's $2.
Oh, okay. So my other question was if we're seeing younger people using it, it sounds more like the Uber, the Lyft. Is there any connection there, or like why create this system if people have access to that? Cost, it sounds like.
Cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
So the difference between an Uber and a Lyft is they'll pick you up and take you exactly where you want to go. With microtransit, it's still public transportation. So it'll pick me up, but it might pick Matt up, might pick Andrea up, might pick you up, drop you guys off before it gets to where I'm going if the algorithm in the app is telling the driver, what's the most efficient way to get from here to there with these people on board.
That's really cool.
So it's still mass transportation, but on a micro level.
Yeah. I love that.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
The stops are also at your nearest corner, so they might not pick you up at your front door like an Uber or Lyft might. But you might have to walk a half block down the street. But again, that makes it more efficient for picking up multiple people and getting you there quicker.
So are there other cities that are doing something like this? Okay.
Yeah, so we keep hearing a lot of comparisons to what they're doing in St. Louis. Indianapolis tried it for a little bit. I believe Nashville. So it's a lot of cities have a lot of different sizes. Some of it use it in certain parts of their city only. And then others like Arlington, Texas, which we learned about a lot at the beginning, only has microtransit. They've never had any other kind of transportation bus system. So we learned a lot from quite a few other communities, and we're hearing good things from the people that help us operate this, how well we're doing here in Evansville. So we're excited to hear that.
Yeah, I grew up here in Evansville, and I feel like the bus system just for the traveling from Evansville to different places to work, or it's just a lot harder and it takes a lot longer. Just because do you think it's because we're just so spread out? in some ways, or businesses where people are working are further away? Because you said Toyota is kind of in on this as well. What's their involvement been?
Toyota Mobility Foundation.
Toyota Mobility, okay.
So they're a nonprofit. They helped us out at the very beginning. Matt was able to help us go through some of our mass transportation city. You run off of 5307 funds is what it's called. It's through the federal funding. We were able to use some of that. Toyota threw in $150,000. They were able to help us get with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and Energy Systems Group, or Energy Systems Network, and they procured 2 mobility vehicles for us, or 2 minivans that had the wave access for wheelchair access in the back with the ramp and everything. So they were able to donate that. So the actual funding for the first year, which we set aside $850,000, of that $105,000 were from the city general fund. Everything else was through grants.
So you have some metrics that you said you brought some numbers with you today, and well, I'm looking at them as well. Just 73% of riders feel more connected to the community. I think that's a huge win, just that number alone. How have you, maybe Matt, you can speak more into this. How does this address those barriers to accessing healthcare and employment, all that?
Yeah, so we started all this for helping people get to their healthcare appointments. And as we're talking to the medical community, as this is ongoing, they're excited to see how many appointments people are making now because they can get there. 2,000 people have gone to either Ascension St. Vincent or Deaconess Gateway in this first year using METS Micro, and they're excited to see those numbers. But looking at some of the rider surveys that have been put out last year, 9% of the riders are using it for healthcare. So we're excited to see that not only are we getting those rides to healthcare, like we started off with trying to fill that need, 38% of the people are using it for work, and 36% are using it for errands. So that's your grocery stores and your pharmacies. So in addition to just getting to your appointments, there's other things that people are being able to use it for to help with the health of their family.
So Andrea, how have you guys seen that affect just overall community wellness?
What it's doing is it's providing people with one less barrier to get to where they need to in their daily life, right? So in public health, we talk a lot about the social determinants of health, and transportation is one of those, because we want people to have stable housing. We want everybody who's going to school to be able to get there every day. It's critical for academic success, right?
Right.
And removing barriers to get to your daily errands, getting to the grocery store, getting to the pharmacy, those are important just from like a stress factor, right?
Yeah.
It takes that element out. And, with the $2 price tag per ride, that's pretty affordable.
Yeah.
And when you weigh that with the cost of personal automobile ownership,
I was thinking I
really
it
outweighs it. And
you can gas really make prices and all that.
Exactly, and insurance, and it's just more expensive to purchase a vehicle these days, whether it's used or new. So, it also gets us thinking about how we move about this community differently. And I think when people take public transportation, they also see a different aspect of the community. They're not as active in the driving part. They're able to take in their surroundings and understand who they're, what they're part of this community and, this neighborhood and whatever. I know when I've ridden in to go to work using METS Micro, it's a different way than I would take myself. So that all really feeds into creating that more vibrant and connected community.
So you've taken METS Micro.
Yeah, I love it. I love sitting back and not having to, be at the wheel. I think that's great.
I would love to hear about your experience. So have you had people in the car with you as well?
No, I don't know if it's the time I go in or what. I've gotten lucky because we really right now are at capacity. I mean, it expanded in June, and the ridership is really elevated. But I enjoyed it because it's no joke. I'm a talker, so I just because I had been part of this from the beginning. I love peppering the driver with questions like,
Right.
how is this? What do you think? What do you see? What's your experience? And
Yeah.
I get the sense that the drivers are pretty consistent. You've got some kind of champions of the service. So it's just fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what lessons can be applied from the success of this to our community and other connectivity and initiatives?
I think it goes back to the beginning when me and Andrea knew that we had to go find out what the issues were. Like we went to the healthcare providers and said, all right, you've got an issue with transportation, but what does that mean exactly? And so, how do we get people to the appointments? And then we asked, like, what would your solutions be, right? So we wanted to get their sense of what could help. And then we had connections. We knew some people from, like Andrea said, we talked to people from Missouri, Oklahoma, different places like
Up in Indy.
Up in Indy, yes. What are you guys doing? What have been your successes and what have been your failures? Because we want to make sure that we're going to do it right here. And then locally, me and Andrea can't do it by ourselves. We knew that we had to start reaching out to everybody. We reached out to Jonathan and other organizations to say, how can we do this together and what can we do to make the best for our community? And then the Toyota Mobility Foundation and Energy Systems Network, that kind of fell in our lap in a way. And we were very lucky to have their support and their help because they've been doing this throughout the country in different ways. And so they really helped kickstart it. And it's very pleasing to hear that they like to see our success, that they're here in our corner with us. They're continuing to pay attention and it's been great to see.
Jonathan, I'm curious for you. How long have you been at METS?
I've been with METS for going on 15 years.
Okay, so I would just love to hear kind of a timeline or just how you feel about, has there been a lot of innovation and growth in this area, or is this kind of a new thing for METS to explore?
This is new. We've always had METS paratransit mobility, which is also considered demand response, which is what microtransit is considered
Right.
demand response. This is slightly different though because with METS mobility, there are parameters you need to meet. You have to either be of a certain age to be qualified for it, or have a medical condition that qualifies you for this door-to-door service. I think what's also interesting and important for people to think about is, don't be afraid of change. This is a new type of service, but also don't, everyone's different. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. For some people, they are more comfortable being in a big bus, paying 75 cents and driving from point A to point B and then walking a few blocks. For other people, they're more comfortable in, getting there right away. They want that faster service. They want the ease of looking at their phone. And also, if you're new to the city, or even if you've lived in the city a long time, it can be confusing on how to ride a bus. Like, it's really not as simple to know which bus I need to get on from here, if I have to make a connection to get to another side of town.
Right.
And some people are a little nervous about that, especially at first. And so they're more comfortable just being in a smaller vehicle, not as many people talking, and just a little more quiet.
Yeah. So what are you guys excited about in the future? How is METS Micro growing? What are its plans?
You want to take that one?
I would like for you all to take this one. So just pick who goes first.
Well, we're planning on expanding and going citywide. We have a grant through the EPA that is going to help us fund that for the next 3 years. So we are excited about that.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think it's important to note that we believe the success of the awarding application is because METS Micro is a big part of that grant, but we've built a comprehensive proposal around this concept of mobility. And so we'll be, of course, expanding METS Micro. It's just amazing to think about it going citywide, but we'll also be expanding the upgrade bike share infrastructure by adding e-bikes to that fleet.
Cool. Okay.
The city engineer's office will be working on some specific sidewalk areas that'll create some connectivity. There'll be EV charging stations because that's a part of creating the new fleet. The buses will be affected, right? The charging station.
Charging stations and solar at our building.
Yeah, solar at your building. That's what it was. So hopefully I didn't leave anything out. But the idea being that we're trying to promote mobility options to our community. That there's a connectivity piece in itself.
Yeah.
And as the regional organization, we've heard from people in Warwick County and Henderson County, seeing the success of METSAndrea, seeing more people use transit in Evansville, and wondering how can we see some of that success. So we're working closely with both officials in Henderson and Warwick County about how can we better connect the communities. We've been talking for years about how we better connect Evansville and Henderson, and it's been difficult for multiple reasons. And same with Warwick County. We've got a connection in Warwick County, but it's one connection. It's been difficult. But bringing regional transportation together and maybe utilizing microtransit in other areas that can get us back and forth is one way to answer it. But we're at the beginning of stages of really making a difference in how people get around the whole region, not just the city of Evansville. So we hope that we can continue this momentum that METSAndrea has started and really help people get around as easily as possible.
Yeah, it's so important for our community to feel connected together, and we're seeing health benefits, which a healthy community is a healthy community, which we want, but also connected. And people, if they think I've got to go grocery shopping, but it's going to take me all day, and now it no longer does, that's good for our economy as well, and just our city growth. I would say our listeners are more likely to have a car and drive everywhere and maybe not even know how to take the bus, or have even seen one of these METSAndrea cars driving around. So how can one of our kind of average listeners either get involved, or what's their role in this? How can the public kind of support these initiatives?
Transportation is expensive. You can always, talk to your city council member and recommend it. Talk to your county council member to help us with our funding and help support METS and METSAndrea. You'll start seeing more of the vehicles on the road. Right now we have 4 METSAndrea vehicles, and with this it'll go up to 20 vehicles. At the beginning, it'll have 6 of them will be electric vehicles, and as we move along throughout the life of the grant, as more charging stations are built, we're going to put in more of the electric vehicles and fewer of the hybrid vehicles, but everything starting out will be either electric or hybrid.
Okay. What do these vans look like? What can if I'm looking for them on the road so I can wave?
They're Toyota Sienna minivans, the ones that we have currently. And they have a wrap on them that says METSAndrea. They've got a little green and blue and white, just like our newer big buses that we have at METS. So they do stick out.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
I would also add just what can your listeners do?
Yeah.
If they're within the service area, give it a try. And I don't know if that encouragement will have to be as difficult in the coming months, because I think the construction that we're seeing is only going to increase. It's the kind of the price of progress, right? We've got a huge project on the Lloyd for You. But maybe it might take you a few extra minutes to get to work, but it'd probably be a lot less stressful to just jump in one of the METSAndrea vehicles, or take the bus if you're really close to a bus stop.
Give you time to listen to the For Evansville podcast.
There you go,
and on your way.
And it is less stressful than having to try to navigate closures and detours and all that. So yeah, give it a try.
In addition to what Jonathan was saying, at the MPO, we're required to do planning documents that get updated every 2 years, every 5 years, depending on the document. And we're encouraged to find as much public input as possible. So, check out the Evansville MPO website, and whenever we have something, then we're requesting information. That only helps us look better. As far as the need for transportation here in Evansville and in the region in general, and so hopefully that can translate to more federal funding for our region.
Great. Well, thank you guys for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being for Evansville in the ways that you are, of just bringing a more connected city that we can live well together, and just make Evansville a better place to live and bring people in and keep people here. And I think transportation is a huge part of that. So thank you to each one of you for coming on here today. And we will put things in the show notes, ways to access the app or website to read more information. So make sure that you check out the show notes and that, and spread the word or take a ride share. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.